What's up, everybody? Andrew Zimmern here. The Substack Spilled Milk Ask Me Anything edition usually comes to you on a Friday. Family wedding weekend this weekend. My best friend's daughter, my godchild, married this weekend. Incredible. Congratulations, Hannah and Alec. But needless to say, shit got lost in the sauce. But without further ado, let's get right to your questions and my somewhat ridiculous answers. Tanya writes, sometimes recipes called for fine sea salt. Haven't seen that many of them, but okay. How different is that from regular table salt, like Morton's? Well, a lot. Morton's makes a kosher salt that's very nice. They also make a sea salt. So be careful what you're looking for. Labels matter. The word fine just refers to the grind, right? So there's going to be more weight of salt per tablespoon. Tablespoons are a volume, not a weight. That's why chefs love to specify weights, as in grams and stuff. So the finer something is ground, the heavier it will be versus something that's very coarse and there's air in there when it's put into a volume measure like a cup or a tablespoon. But more importantly, sea salt and table salt are very, very different in taste, texture, processing, mineral content, etc. Taste. Sea salt, far better than table salt. It's more complex and distinct. Table salt is one-dimensional and just purely salty. Texture. Sea salt is coarser and has bigger granules, and because of the way it's made, which is, evaporated seawater, usually done courtesy of the sun, you get some really fantastic crystalline shapes. A lot of those great finishing salts that have a great crunchy texture to them are from sea salt and not from table salt, which is typically much finer and uniformly sized. And that's because it's processed, which is, bullet number 3, processing. Sea salt is produced, as I said before, by evaporating seawater, often directly under the sun. Table salt, on the other hand, is mined from salt deposits, right? And sometimes is actually just put together in a lab. It's heavily processed, including the addition of anti-caking agents and iodine. So you have to be very, very, very careful. I do not own table salt in my house. And I don't know, I probably have 25 different salts here. I'm kind of obsessive, but like when I'm in Japan, I get their sea salt. When I'm in the Italian islands, I get their sea salt and several different types. Last time I was in Senegal, I was in the very famous salt producing body of water in Senegal, the Lac Rosé, Pink Lake, and I still have some pink flaky salt that I can't use the last few tablespoons of because I love it so much. Mineral content is a big differentiator. Sea salt typically has more natural trace minerals than table salt, which is stripped of all its minerals during processing. And sea salt has, while very small elements, it does have calcium, magnesium, potassium, and iron, depending on what its source is. So while there's no nutritional benefit to one or the other, I really, and we get enough iodine these days. The iodized salt is a holdover from days where in our diets we didn't get enough iodine. Iodine deficiencies are very rare in America. So just use, sea salts of whatever kind you can get your hands on. And I do typically have several different grinds available in my kitchen. George writes, dude, I so want to eat a tuna head right now. He blames that on me. It is my fault. I talk a lot about it. There's nothing better than a roasted whole tuna head. But he writes, what have you heard about web-based cuisine cookery classes for kids ages 5 and up would apply? They're fantastic. There are tons of them all over. I would encourage you as parents out there, just go to YouTube, ask your kids, what's their favorite food? Let's say they say spaghetti and meatballs. Then Google it and go to, but search it in YouTube so that you can find, maybe it's a famous chef they've seen on television. Maybe it's just a great Italian chef who doesn't speak English, who's very funny and has a, crazy hat on or something. And make it with your kids. Make it a learning time together. If you're looking specifically for enrolling them. Oftentimes, rec centers, local YMYWCAs and HAs have cooking classes. Local culinary bookshops and stores usually have food appearances by chefs and whatnot, and it's a great thing. And then there's actual coursework for kids that is fantastic. Roube, Rouxbe, is a great online resource. Gronda, Gronda, is a great online resource, depending on what their skill set is and what they want to make. If your kids see some crazy orange foam coming out of an ISO machine, why not learn how to make that wonderful sauce, whatever it might be, together? And then the other resource is the Jacques Pepin Foundation, which actually puts cooking education first and foremost in front of young students. So there's incredible resources there, and you could get your kids a membership and they could have recipes coming into their or your inboxes every single week. So try that. Mimi writes, we need to buy a new grill and only have space for one. I feel your pain. We've always had charcoal, but are thinking about getting a gas grill. In your opinion, would we regret that? Yes. I just think food is better cooked over natural hardwood charcoal, or whether you buy that or make it yourself by burning wood. Craig, who did a lot of research on haggis for over 2 trips to Scotland, according to my editor, writes, we are researching our next trip to Greece and the Cyclades. Oh, I love the Cycladic Islands. It's a group of islands in the southernmost part of the chain, Greek chain. Just starting to look for what we should pursue in the eating department. Well, if you're in the Cyclades and you're going during the summer, you're going to eat a lot of tomatoes and feta and grilled fish and squid and octopus. And you won't want to eat anything else, and you'll gorge on it forever, and you'll be thrilled and come back and say, I've just eaten the best tomatoes in the world and had the best octopus and eaten the best grilled fish. But it's much different than what you will find in north central Greece or in the mountains, right? Where you're going to still find a lot of lamb, a lot of heartier dishes. Greek cuisine, when people talk about great European cuisines, is often overlooked. I think that's outrageous. Greek cuisine of all kinds, if you take the entire culinary canon and pile it together, is wonderful. It's seasonal. There's rustic, earthy, meaty, biggy, bouncy, awesome, and there's that light, summery, Mediterranean cuisine of the sun aspect to it. So get into Greek cuisine, and if you're going to go over there, small country, you can, run all around there. I definitely fly into Athens, hang out there for a day or two, eat it all up, go to Bayraktaris and get some souvlaki and gyro and whatnot. Go up into the north, do your whole thing up there, check out Delphi and all the rest of that, and then go down into the islands. And if you're so inclined, it's less expensive than doing it anywhere else in Europe, except maybe Croatia. Get a boat and the captain, and it's cheaper than a hotel oftentimes. A lot of times the boats will sleep 4 to 6 people, and you can just sail around the islands, dock, go in, eat, party, go back to your boat at night and sleep. You'll feel like a rock star. Well, you're at least living like one. Enchanté says, I signed up for the wait list for the Salato home machine. That is a machine that you put a capsule of organic ingredients in, and it turns it into frozen yogurt or sorbet or gelato. But it looks like it might be too big for my kitchen if it is anywhere near the size of a commercial machine. It's smaller than a commercial machine. It's probably about 2.5 feet high and then about 1.5 feet square in the other dimensions. So it's not small. Any ideas on the price of these, Andrew? No, I've put in a request to the company as well. I think they're the coolest thing in the whole world. And the product is incredible. And I want one. So I'm in the same boat you are. Ellen writes, have you ever been to Norfolk or Virginia Beach? Yes, several times driving through, making shows, and I stayed on the naval base there, and so I didn't get to eat in a lot of restaurants. If so, what restaurants have you been to? Oh, I should have read the rest of the question yet. Not a lot. Also, do you listen to music while you cook? All the time. What are some of your favorites? I have playlists on Spotify and on my website, and I like everything. If I'm cooking all day long, I almost don't hear it. I get into a zone. So I love classical music. I love jazz. I love, hip hop ambient music like lo-fi fruits. I love lo-fi fruits. Probably the coolest thing my kid has turned me on to in a couple of years. I'm obsessed with lo-fi fruits. And I listen to a lot of classic rock. I listen to a lot of contemporary stuff. I listen to a lot of hip hop because of him. I'm an equal opportunity music lover. I haven't listened to the Dandy Warhols in 4 or 5 years, and I just got into a Dandy Warhols jag the other day, and I've been listening to nothing but them. I listen to all kinds of stuff, but I do have some fun playlists on Spotify for you. One is called Music to Cook By. So there's that. It's almost strawberry season where we live, writes Alexandra, and we always end up with more strawberries than we can eat. What can we do with lots of strawberries if our enthusiasm gets the better of us again this year? You can rinse them in water. You can pat them dry. You can take off the stem end and then freeze them on sheet pans. Once they're frozen, put them into a bag and store them. They won't be great fresh, but at least they'll have some texture to them, so you can put them in sangrias and stuff like that. Some people like to store them that way. Other people, like me, actually puree them, cook them down with a little bit of sugar and lemon juice, strain them again, and then I freeze that intense strawberry reduction in, cup portions in Ziploc bags, and I put them in my freezer, and then I have them for use in baking, and if I want I can make jams. The one thing I do every year, at a certain point, the strawberries are super ripe, super flavorful, and big flats of them are half price, and they're dented and bruised and all the rest of that, and usually attracting fruit flies at the farm stand. And those I buy 3 or 4 flats, and I make strawberry jam every single summer. And over the course, by January, it's gone. But boy, is it delicious. Cal writes, do you need to descale fish before you cook it whole? Yes, small ones. No to big ones. Give you an example. Trout, I'll scale it because I want to crisp up the skin and I love it. Salmon, anything up to, portions I'll descale that. I want crispy skin. If I'm in Long Island with my friends and it's high tide and it's 6 o'clock in the evening and I catch a big striped bass and want to throw it on the grill, that's going to take about 45 minutes to cook all the way through, right? Because it's really thick. And it has a big bone in the middle of it. But the scales allow me to keep it in contact with the heating surface for a long time. And so I'll actually then just peel the literally burnt and carbonized scales off. It takes some of the skin with it, but the inside is just perfectly cooked and moist and delicious. And you get all of that fire-kissed smoky flavor on the fish. So sometimes it's a matter of convenience, right? I don't want to scale some big thing, but scales removed, the skin is stickier on a grill. If you have a really nicely oiled grill and it's really clean and it gives good release. Jenny writes, you chop the onions in your bean soup recipe. You chop them roughly. Yes, I did. I wish I could chop onions that look even that good. Do you have any tips for a lifelong onion butcher? Here's what I recommend to everyone looking to improve their knife skills. Buy a 10-pound bag of onions and a 5-pound bag of carrots, and every day chop a couple carrots and chop a couple onions and do fine dice, do batons of the carrots, do brunoise and alumettes, right? If you look at my knife skills video that is on my YouTube channel, we go through all of this. But if you do that with carrots and onions, and then you take your chopped stuff in all its different shapes, the mistakes and the good ones, you just put them in a Ziploc bag, at the end of a week or two, you can make a delicious carrot soup. right? So it's not going to waste. Season it with curry and ginger. You'll thank me later. But by the end of a week, your knife skills will have gotten about 20 times better. You'll be faster, you'll be more efficient, and more precise. So practice makes perfect. Jeff wants to know, sometimes I've always wondered, how do chefs keep their dripping sweat from getting in the food? Hats, headbands, cloth tied around your head. Especially notable are the contestants on Chopped, where they are hurrying about cooking and the sweat is just rolling off them. I find it so disgusting. I've judged a lot of cooking shows, including Chopped. And if I'm there and I see someone sweating into food, to me that is something that you just simply do not do. There's a difference between an accidental thing and something where you know you're going to be intense, you're sweating. Like, put a hat on, put a headband on, wear something on your head. If I'm cooking in a video on camera, I'm going to spend 15 minutes. I don't break a sweat. But if I'm doing really, really, really intense stuff, I will put a bandana or something, or wear a cap so I'm not sweating into food. It's so gross. Pamela writes, do you prefer to cook alone at home, or do you like having sous chefs, etc., like at work? When I cook at home, I prefer to do it alone because selfishly, it's my yoga. It is a yoga in the classical sense of the word. I mean, I'm not stretching and doing poses, but the spiritual aspect of it. Sometimes I will cook all day long, 10 hours on a set, making Wild Game Kitchen or doing a video series at the office. And I will come home and have friends for dinner and cook. And the reason that I like to do that is that I lose the office in the hour it takes me to get dinner together. It's my yoga, plus it's my pleasure. It's my passion. It's how I enjoy myself. So yeah, I prefer that at home. It's just sometimes if there are people coming over and I can get an extra pair of hands to help me do stuff, that's great. That usually starts with setting the table. But I'm a crotchety old chef. What can I say? But the real fun is it's sometimes doing hobbyist cookery with someone. Like, hey, let's roll out 200 dumplings together and freeze them, right? And there it's fun to do it with other people. John writes, did you pick up any vinyl for Record Store Day on April 22nd? John, let me be honest with you. If I got heavily into vinyl the way I get into collecting everything else, I would bankrupt myself. And so I did not do Record Store Day, but I do buy vinyl for friends, and there's so many collectibles in that department that I wish I had hung on to, because I bought them in the 60s and 70s, and I'm like, really? It's worth what? Yeah, that's my reaction to it. Anyway, great questions. Keep them coming. Have a great rest of your week. We're doing things a little out of order this week. We'll be back on schedule soon. But yeah, spilled milk. By the way, if you enjoy this, email it to all your friends. Tell your friends to subscribe. We really are trying to grow our community, and we thank you so much for your support. Have a great rest of the day.